Tonga are so popular. Join us over the next half hour as we take you through the entire process from the planting of yams to the harvest and getting the root crops ready for the export market. A staple in Pacific culinary has to be the good old root crops. What would a good lovo be without some taro, or fish and lolo without some cassava or maniac? But chief among all is the yam. It's the root crop that suits just about any dish, and most Pacific Islanders would agree. Yams are an exotic root vegetable which comes in many different sizes, shapes, and varieties. In fact, there are about 600 species of yams found around the world, most of them here in the tropics. But why are yams so special to our Pacific cultures? Well, for starters, it was considered the food of the gods or the chiefs and is central to various cultural ceremonies still in existence today. Yams are believed to have originated in Africa hundreds of years ago. Today, West Africa produces over 90% of the world's yam crop, with Nigeria the largest grower. South America, the West Indies, Asia, and the Pacific are large consumers of yam and have engaged in commercial farming. Hama Exports in Tonga is a classic example. A small export company that today has grown its markets across New Zealand and Australia. The company exports several varieties of yam to the Tongan and African diaspora in both countries. And the man at the helm is Daniel Hamala. An accountant by profession and a rugby referee, the whole idea of a yam export business was to give back to his community.
There was a bit of push from my part to get a market set up for their produce, because I know that the local growers are very capable of producing. So that's how it all started. I think it is that bit of each of wanting to be of help to the local growers.
He started out 3 years ago with 15 growers, which grew to 30 growers in the second season, and today he works with over 40 yam farmers from across Nuku'alofa. The beauty of his partnership with the farmers are the youth. Daniel has gathered a group of young school dropouts and has engaged them in yam farming. It's the definitive life lesson. Teach a man to fish, and you feed him for a lifetime.
When we started off, we have 4 of our boys here, being used as alpacas and graders. And I knew, like last year, because they are dropouts, they are school dropouts. They in the teens, they didn't want to continue with their schooling, so we got them to do the grading and the packing of our produce. But deep down, I know that they want to have a little plantation of their own, and that's how the IAC program was sort of approached.
Yam season begins in July, when the farmers sow seedlings, and in February they're ready for harvest. Daniel uses a working bee concept, where the youth work together on one farm and then move to the next. It's kind of a general labor force that works on one project at a time, like on one farm at a time. And the best thing, well, there's no costs involved. So let's show you what a typical day on a Tongan yam farm would be like. But before we get our hands dirty, let's start the pig on the spit. Slow roast, Tongan style. cultivation of most yams is very labor intensive. Cultivated yams generally do not produce seeds, and so the tubers must be planted in prepared soil, most often in mounds, to grow new plants. "20-year-old Minilote Faleofa is part of the young group of farmers that Hammer Exports works with. He dropped out of school due to financial reasons and decided to pursue his interests in farming. But that dream wasn't realized until he met Daniel Hamala. Today he not only puts food on the table, but also puts his younger siblings through school.
It helps us to produce the farm. For what we can do, we can apply us the financial need, money.
Sione Hamala is another young man who ventured out into yam farming. He believes there's a lot of potential in young people to become agro-entrepreneurs.
And I think it's important for us, our young people, because we don't have any plantation yam like Lose, yeah. But those people like me and those guys is important for us because we have. So I have a yam, but now like before I don't have yam before, but now I have yam, and I'm saying thanks for this project.
Meli Thuniau has been planting yams for as long as she can remember. It's been a way of life for decades now, linked to memories of her childhood. But that was a subsistence life. Now she farms to put food on the table. Mele is one of the 30-odd farmers that supplies a variety of yams to Hammer Exports.
Mine is not more than 2 acres, but I just planted in a very, not very, between one to another one, it's not really much. But but I just harvest about more than 1,000 kilos.
And commercial farming has changed her life immensely. For Tongans, yams are an important staple, used for religious and cultural purposes. But commercial yam farming has economically empowered her and her family. It's a simple yet literal concept. As she puts it, you basically reap what you sow.
Due to the time that will be planted before, we just eat it. As the neighbors, we just keep without receiving anything. But due to met with Daniel and then start to be supplying and exported, we got money. We earned money from there. So it's more easier for me. After all, when I got the money from export and harvest it, I just pay the school fees of my children. I've got 4. They are 2 still in the government primary school in Tonga Side School and 2 in the colleges. So after all, I just receive the money. I'm very happy. I feel excited. Me and my husband, we just sit down and do a pray. We pray God and thanks Him for giving us the opportunity to have that one. So the difference is I just pay my school fees, school fees of my kids on time.
Now, the variety of yams that Mele and other farmers grow isn't native to Tonga. In fact, it's only been around for 20 years. It's actually African in origin, but still very conducive to Tonga's tropical environment.
Comparing that to the traditional yams in Tonga, they are much easier to rear. They don't require any, let's say, fertilizers or spraying, you know. So it's generally much easier to look after, to grow, and also it has the market. There is a market for them. Yeah? We found out both in Australia and New Zealand that the main consumers behind it are the African communities in Sydney and Auckland. So yes, it's got to do with the market as well.
At the beginning of the dry season, the vines die away and the tubers are ready to be harvested. Most species must be dug out by hand very carefully. If they are damaged, they could spoil soon. In peak harvest season, Hummer exports can trade up to 6 tons every 10 days. Most Tongans, whether they're farmers or not, are well equipped to grow root crops, which is why the Agriculture Ministry in Tonga is encouraging people to move into some level of commercial farming.
The majority of the growers in Tonga, they are so used to growing the root crops like yam, cassava, taro, and I think in that area they have the skill and the capacity to do this work. And also vegetables, we have also Chinese coming in now, but we are working together with exporters, and also we have also worked together and established the farmers associations and farmers councils, just to see where we can assist the growers.
A notion that a small successful yam farmer like Mele wholeheartedly shares.
Those who don't wake up, stand up, wake up and do something. If you are not planting for export, but you have something to eat with your family. If you are not planting but you have something at home, your children is growing, they will see you doing that, you will delivering the message. And so that message is going from one generation to another generation. Stand up. If you're being lazy, your offspring will be lazy too. If you work hard, sweat, you will know it.
Helping Daniel Hamala meet his export demands is the European Union-funded Increasing Agricultural Commodity Trade or IACT project. IACT has provided the 10 boys with the seedlings for their farm as well as these push bikes to help them get started. It's just the push start these boys need to get going.
Through the assistance of the IAC program, we managed to upgrade a former hall structure and transform it into a packing shed.
So IACT has helped you put together a packing
shed? Yes. So now we are also in a process. We had to complete that project because through the pledged assistance, we will be getting the power connected to it, as well as running water. and workstations for packing, crating and packing.
With SPC as a whole and the IAC project is trying to get youth involved with agriculture. It's a very long process. Youth nowadays feel like they need to work in the workshops, in the offices. But with these youth and then taking the model that Hamana has actually used in Tonga, we can replicate it throughout the Pacific and give it as an example as him being the leading role in involving youth.
The whole idea is to get youths involved with agriculture. The EU project has also assisted Hammer Exports with refurbishment of this old church hall, turning it into a pack house. They're also helping the business with marketing to break into new markets.
To be able to sustain livelihoods, they can plan years ahead in this way, and this is empowerment. It is a true partnership that is established, I mean, with advantages on both sides.
I think that is a plus as well, not only helping the community, but help the young boys who would otherwise have no real sort of career. I mean, there's always farming, they can always be led there to farming, but this little project to me is of great help, and I'm sure they will subscribe that, because with their status they will find it very, very difficult to secure a loan from anybody. So this really is a kickstart to a promising career in farming.
You know, the majority have been gone through the informal markets, and maybe sometimes they give it to their relatives overseas, and they wait there, they hardly get any returns from these exports. But I think it's important now that we realize the importance of, going to further from informal to a more established market where the exporters can do this job, and at the same time we can organize our farmers to grow and to feed this market.
It's all about empowering businesses through partnerships that can be sustained over a long period of time. And in the process, it's also gratifying to see others succeed.
I've seen it. It's such a gratifying experience to see the growers walking away after grading in the produce, because you know that they will be paying for their kids' school fees and those. I'm not boasting, but I think it has obvious sort of encouraging signs. It's very satisfying.
It's just the impetus these young people and businesses like Hammer Exports need to remain sustainable and make a valuable contribution to their communities and economy.
The end goal is, one, to reduce unemployment in Tonga first, increase the yam productions in the Pacific. We're hoping in the next phase of this, if there's a next phase of IAC, to actually get Hamana as a model and replicate it into Fiji or into Samoa or into PNG. He's opened the market to both countries, New Zealand and Australia. We could use the hope is to use his linkages into these markets.
There's the main objective behind what we're trying to do through the IAT project, support these companies to start opening into new markets. Of course, they will continue on their own, and of course we regard these also as pilot projects, because success story will inspire more success stories.
Our ardent fan all the way from Africa in Uganda, Pyrus Mukasa, says he has been inspired by our features on agricultural farming. Thank you for tuning in, Pyrus. Colinio Tukaisuva sent us a message saying Talk Business is his favorite show, and he's learned quite a bit too. And finally, Joe tweeted at us saying he thoroughly enjoyed our episodes from Tonga. Thank you again, our viewers, for your feedback. And that's the show for this week. We'd love to hear from you, so do send us an email, talkbusiness@fijitv.com.fj. Remember, you can catch me on the net on our YouTube channel as well as our Facebook page. And if you're on Twitter, follow me at Rachna FijiTV. Thank you for joining us. Do join us again at the same time next week. Until then, have a productive week.
Yam is a popular staple grown throughout the region. Apart from being a source of carbohydrate, they are a valuable source of income for several thousand farm families and a foreign exchange earner for many countries. The quality and quantity of the crop, and hence its competitiveness in the food trade arena, however, depends on the commitment of the farmer, from the preparation of the field to the harvesting of the crop. Two important aspects of yam production are propagation and providing good support to the plant during its growth and development. It is therefore important that farmers pay attention to their selection of planting material. This will determine the quality and quantity of the harvest. Yams can be propagated by various techniques, including mini-setting. In your selection of materials for mini-setting, ensure that they are mature, healthy, and undamaged, and that they weigh between 2 and 3 pounds. Also, ensure that they show signs of sprouting. The selection of immature tubers for planting will result in a reduction in yields. A clean, sharp knife is required for the preparation of the planting material. Cut the tuber into pieces. Each piece is called a mini-set. Mini-sets should have an outer layer of skin and weigh up to 4 ounces. Like other crops, yams are affected by pests, that is, insects and disease agents. Borers, for example, tunnel into the tuber and make it unmarketable, and nematodes feed on tubers. To protect your crops from infestation by these pests, it is important that the mini-sets are treated with an appropriate solution of fungicide and insecticide. Mini-sets should be submerged in the solution for 15 minutes, removed, and spread on a clean surface in a shady area for about 24 hours. Prepare a raised nursery bed about 2 feet wide under the light shade. The length of the bed will depend on the number of mini-sets used. The bed should be built in layers, with gravel at the bottom to drain excess water. The top layer should be wood shavings or sawdust about ½ inch thick. It is on this layer that you place your mini-sets side by side, then cover with more sawdust or wood shavings. The bed must be kept moist to prevent the mini-sets from drying out.
We might recycle the same earth, like here, yam was planted here for about 3 years ago. Every year, and it's up to 5-6 years. As long as we control the leafage that was there from last year, that might keep the nematode or the insects around. We try to burn those and try to get rid of those before we go back. But it's a good year for us even this year. So I'm happy to know that further on, I might continue with my farming.
Mini-sets should sprout in 2 or 3 weeks, depending on the variety. As the plants grow, there is need for trellising. Traditionally, farmers went into the forests to cut posts or sticks for trellising the crop as it grows. However, this method has proven to be a challenge in terms of availability, cost, labor, and has had negative impacts on the ecology of the farming area. Trellising has had several advantages, including increased yield per acre with the use of ridge formations instead of individual mounds. Trellising is ideal for the farmer who is equally interested in the quality of his produce as well as the quantity he can harvest. Throughout the building process, efforts are made to ensure that the plants are not damaged during windy conditions. Stabilizers are erected to prevent uprooting. The plants are usually spaced out about 18 inches on ridges that are about 3 feet apart. Every step of the trellis construction is meant to assist the farmer being able to move around his farm easier. The advantages are even more evident during harvest. Trellises are built using fence wire, and particular attention is paid to the height of the structure.
The higher you have your trellis, or the higher you have the foliage from the yam, the easier it is for the wind to have it playing up there for you. And the next thing is throw down the trellis. I find it convenient to have my trellis about walking height, because from time to time I may have to do something on top of the wire.
Once the trellis is complete, the vine from the newly sprouted plant is carefully wrapped around the vertical string and away from the ground. Weeding is important throughout the growth of the yam plants, but it is most crucial during the first 3 months, so that the young plants do not have to compete with weeds for sunlight and water. Plants should be fertilized 6 to 8 weeks after planting. Fertilizer should be applied 6 to 8 inches away from the plant and mixed well into the soil to prevent it from being washed away. Yams are ready for harvest 8 to 11 months after planting. It is important that harvested yams are properly cleaned and placed in a cool, dry environment in preparation.
Welcome to our farm.